Okay, so let's start our conversation about data in marketing, something I always love learning more about. We have three amazing experts to guide us through our conversation today. And first, I'm excited to introduce Loretta Chon. Loretta Chon joined KKR in 2022 and is the head of digital marketing. Prior to joining KKR, Ms. Chon was the head of digital for JP Morgan Private Bank and JP Morgan Asset Management Americas. Ms. Chon also worked at Prudential Global Investment Management, driving marketing strategy and business development for investments across Asia, Europe, and Latin America. Ms. Chon received her bachelor's from Carnegie Mellon University. Great to have you here, Loretta.
Great to be here. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you. And next we have Dr. Dacia Elliott. Dr. Dacia Elliott is a scholar, practitioner, and market manager at Axion Opportunity Fund with over a decade of experience in finance and operational strategy for small businesses, particularly those led by underrepresented entrepreneurs. She is the former owner of a digital and event marketing company where she helped businesses refine their go-to-market strategies and secure corporate partnerships with the nationally recognized brands. Dr. Elliott is the author of Hi, My Name Is Marketing for Transitioning to Entrepreneurship and served as the program architect for a national agribusiness accelerator. Her digital marketing journey began with training from Google, ultimately leading her to support entertainment and nonprofit organizations in transforming their online presence, going live on Facebook before it became mainstream. I know that's right. Hi, Dacia. Great to have you here.
Hello, hello. Good to see everyone.
Wonderful. And last but certainly not least, we have Lanessa Hubbard. Lanessa is the owner of Certified Nails, a health-focused salon in Noblesville, Indiana, where she leverages her background in forensic science and chemistry to bring a scientific approach to nail care. She specializes in providing safe, hygienic services tailored to individuals with health concerns, including diabetes, immune conditions, and oncology patients, while also serving clients who desire wellness-oriented nail treatments. Passionate about raising industry standards, Lanessa combines technical expertise with compassionate care to transform traditional nail services into wellness experiences. I absolutely love that. So great to have you here, Lanessa.
Thank you for having me. Hi, guys.
Welcome. Okay, we have the three perfect experts for the job. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Dacia, I'd love to start with you. A lot of small business owners are wearing all the hats. Marketing can feel like guessing. Why is it worth slowing down and actually looking at the data? And what might that data unlock for folks?
Great question. And with any guest, you want it to be as educated as possible. I think it's important that when we think about what is marketing, whether it's online, event, whatever the case may be, it's you using, this channel, this platform to be able to connect with your potential customers, but then also inform or promote what it is that your service or whatever your product is. And so if you think about those two things, your relationship building, and then you're also educating, your customers, your consumers, how it is that they can learn from you, buy from you, and be loyalists of what it is that you have going on. That is something that you want to trust more than just your gut. You want to be able to have the data and the analytics to back it up. And ultimately, you want to be able to do what, one kind of notable investor said. You want to be able to look at the numbers and then say, okay, this is how the strategy that was implemented was manifested and tested and tried.
I love that you have both sides, like how it was tested and also building that relationship so that people are loyal to you because that can mean everything for a business, especially in a growth stage. My next question is for Lanessa. What's the first marketing metric you remember paying attention to, and what did it help you realize about your business?
That's a good question. Being in the beauty industry, it's a bit different. you have to make sure you're paying attention to your reports and your analytics and what's in that report. So for me, I think the very first thing that kind of like made me take a step back and think about the things I was doing is my client booking rate. I remember looking at that and I was like, man, what does this number mean? Why is it so low? And when I actually took a deep dive into it, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not getting clients to come back. Here it is. I'm thinking like, they had a good time, they got a good service, they're just gonna rebook. But no, that wasn't the case. People have busy lives. They forget to book appointments, they have a lot going on. So when I saw that number was low, I'm like, how can I get these people to come back? So I changed my whole way of doing things and created a program. Like making sure once I check that person out, I'm asking them about rebooking. Making sure in my booking app, I have an email being sent out about, thank you for coming. If they're a first time client, here's a discount on your next visit. And like if it's been 3 weeks and it's time for them to have a new service, they're getting another email saying, hey, don't forget to book your service. So when I did that, it changed the whole game for me. My retention shot up so fast, and I realized it's easier to keep the clients that you already have versus going out and getting new ones. My monthly revenue went up. It was just a game changer for me. So looking at that one little detail that I had no idea about or what it meant, it changed the game for me in my salon. And I created a system that had me having clients continuously coming back and booking them out even further for months and months and months out. So that was the most important thing for the salon industry that I know was a game changer for me.
Wow, I love that. I love that you looked at that marketing metric and then just built out all these really intentional funnels to get the people staying in. So that way, because it can feel like you're kind of spinning your wheels if you're just trying a lot of different things, but you were like, I'm looking at this specific metric and I want to know how to increase it. That is kind of the key to the conversation today is making intentional moves. That's such a great example. Um, Daisha, my next question is for you. What are the top 2 or 3 metrics you recommend small business owners start tracking, and what are those healthy benchmarks they should look for?
Great question. And I love the example that Lanessa had with her booking portal. I'm thinking about, whether it is you're selling grandma's famous cookies or, you have that business where it's management consulting. You want to be able to understand what the organic reach is for the content that you're putting. Where are these people located? What time are they looking at it? Just who is it getting connected with? Again, we're building relationships. The next thing that I would definitely recommend folks to look at is what is that click-through rate? So typically at the end of every either a web page, email, social media, there's some type of call to action or a underlining inspiration to do something. Check out my website or go by here. I think about there's this awesome young man that I see on social media who teaches us how to negotiate with the parents for dessert, right? So if the young man in this post in this video is negotiating to have grandma's famous cookies, right, with the parents, then all throughout you'll see kind of that call to action, that branding, that oh, and this is where you get those awesome cookies because I want to spend time with you, mom and dad, right? That's the trick if you haven't seen how that works. But if you're noticing, and I know we'll, probably cover this later, but if you're noticing that for some reason there's a disconnection between, well, we looked at this, but we're not actually clicking to have the actual sale, then that's, definitely a red flag. And then the third thing, and it's kind of similar to the second, but a derivative, like the bounce rate. What is causing this drop off? Is it that the video doesn't resonate? Maybe it needs to be the parents, that are negotiating for the cookies versus the young man. I mean, so those are the kind of things that we want to look at. And lastly, just having that kind of understanding of, well, based on the industry, based on the type of marketing that we're doing, is it email marketing? Okay, you might have 15 to 20% of folks who are even opening up that email. And then you can kind of set those benchmarks with yourself, your team. Okay, well, from that 15 to 20%, how many of them are clicking through the different links that are inside? Okay, but is there a bounce rate, or is there one of the links that aren't working as well as the others? Or do they come from the email and then they stay at the homepage and then they're for some reason not going to any other pages, or something's getting stuck in the cart? All of those kind of things you can figure out just by looking at, your reach, your click-through rate, and then, your drop-offs.
Super helpful. I love the idea of not only thinking about those three things, but kind of following that storyline of like, okay, how many people are getting it? How many people are clicking on it? And then who's like taking that extra step and buying? And also what you mentioned about looking at, okay, what's your average open rate on your emails or whatnot? And then basing that next step off of that number is really, really helpful. Um, that's awesome. Okay, so my next question is for Loretta. What's a marketing metric that often gets overlooked but is actually very essential for long-term success?
Great question. And I think, Lanessa just mentioned how it's easier sometimes to retain the customers you have than acquiring new ones. But you also want to know what the cost is to acquire new clients too, right? And so the customer acquisition cost, the CAC, is an important number, but to do that by channel, I think is where it could really drive a lot of great learnings around what's working and what's not. A lot of businesses track overall CAC or customer acquisition costs, but I think breaking it down by the individual marketing channels, whether it's emails or social ads, I think this will give you a lot of important insights on what's efficiently bringing in new customers versus ones that might be potentially draining your budget, right? So if you have email and social campaigns running, for example, you might find that, the CAC for Facebook ads are actually higher than the CAC for email campaigns. But that also goes beyond knowing what the CAC is, because I think knowing this can also help you understand where to find different customer types potentially, because even though some channels have higher customer acquisition costs, they might be bringing in higher value clients and customers that are stickier or spend more and stay with you over time. So I think that might be something to consider as an important marketing metric.
Yes, that's incredibly helpful in not only understanding what your customer acquisition or CAC is a lot easier. I like that. Cost is, but then also what is the longevity of that cost. So not just looking at where is it cheapest to acquire new customers, but if it's more expensive, are these ongoing customers? And just having that as top of mind, I feel like is really important because sometimes it feels natural to do the most affordable option, but digging a little deeper into the data can help us make better decisions. Um, Love that. Thank you. Daisha, my next question is for you. Once you have the numbers, how do you actually interpret what they're telling you? Do you have any frameworks or decision-making filters?
For every marketing channel or platform, there is a dashboard, there's an analytics, and each, I'll say, box or section answers a question. May only be one, but it answers something. And so, can we call it the curiosity framework? Sure, that's typically what it is. Because if you take LinkedIn and you're looking at, okay, the seniority level or the location, it answers the question of what is the level of executive that is looking at my post and where are they located, right? So it's almost a little elementary in the sense of, okay, the what, where, how, why, and when. And that's what each of your dashboards, each of your analytics are going to tell you. Now, sometimes you have those managers or those teammates and it's all integrated in one. And so that's great. At the end of the day, you want to understand, okay, we're creating this content, we're scheduling this post, we are very knowledgeable about the profile of our customer. Now, when are we reaching them? Where are we reaching them? How often are we reaching them? I think Loretta mentioned it before. What's the cost to reach them? And then you want to be able to say, okay, that's what's happening just to reach them. But then what's the extra, uh, post or what's the extra dollar amount that's then causing them to be able to actually make the sale or do whatever the call to action is? Might be follow me, subscribe here, reshare, comment, but what is that step and how can we quantify it? Because you want to be able to understand what's working and what's not working so that then you can make what's working scalable and you can minimize the things that you're not doing. If you look back at any issue that you have social media wise, it's going to boil down to a few different things. It's going to boil down to the management, the tools, the strategy, the actual content, or the channel. You can trace it back to either of those things, and you'll somewhere find the answer, the method, okay, we have to change this. And then that'll be able to help you, okay, interpret these are the actual steps, numbers, and methods in how we reach either our target consumers or our target customers.
Yes, that is super helpful. And I like what you said that you can track everything back because that makes it seem a lot more accessible to or easy to do. If I know it's only going to be one of these 4 or 5 things, then I can manageably go and look at that and then make those changes. But you bring up so many good points on you're going to need to find out what's working so that you can create that in a scalable way because we want to do more of that and then free up our time to what's not working instead of just doing stuff because we've always done it or we're afraid to not do it. Um, Okay, Loretta, my next question is for you. What's a mistake you often see teams or business owners make when looking at their analytics, and how can they avoid it?
I think similar to what Desha just said, I think a mistake that I often see is data collection without action, right? So there's a lot of data that we are all probably able to collect, and there's different sources. And businesses are diligently collecting like mountains of data, but never translating or failing to really deliver and translate insights, meaningful insights from that data. So what happens is we become data rich, but insight poor. We need to know the so what with the data. And I think, some ways we can avoid this is to make sure you start with the specific questions that you need answered, like not just collecting data for the sake of collecting data. I start by creating dashboards. That's come up a lot in terms of using dashboards, create simple ones to begin with and have it measure your most critical metrics and then review it. You have to look at it, make sure that it's being reviewed with that specific goal in mind of how does it impact or drive decision making. And I think that's a really important piece to really make it full circle. And then based on each metric too, you could establish even like thresholds or trigger points that might say, okay, if it gets to this type, if the story is telling me this, then I will take these specific actions. And I think those are some ways we can make sure that we're driving insights from the data that's being collected.
Yes, I really like that. And I had a follow-up question, Loretta, just about trend lines. So some folks tend to look at these in isolation. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I think that's definitely a big part of analyzing the data. It's to look for the patterns, not just incidents, because I think oftentimes we'll have like one bad month or one report is showing something a little off, and it's not necessarily a reason to say, okay, this is something's going on. I need to take action right now, but maybe take a step back and look at, the consistent trends over a larger period of time so that you're able to tease out some of the noise. So I think it's very important to look at trend lines too.
I really like that because I do think it's easy to, panic if we see a dip in sales, but maybe that's a natural dip. Maybe March is just always a low month for you, but May is an all-out month. So it helps us prepare not only for our marketing, but also be able to, like you said, interpret the data more accurately and make more quality decisions based on that. Lanessa, my next question is for you. Can you share a time when you use your analytics to make a change in your business and what was the outcome?
So I'm kind of excited about this question because Deja kind of touched on a lot of things that, how I can answer this question. And I think one of the most impactful times in my business, like this is why my business is structured the way that it's structured today, is because I actually use my service performance data to kind of take a deep dive into look into my services because I was offering everything. I was trying to keep up with the faster salon, the traditional salons that was up the street with me. And I was just offering, my specialized services, but, all the trending services I was trying to jump on and add to because I wanted that business. But I wasn't hitting the revenue goals that I wanted. So I was like, man, you know what? I'm different. This isn't what I want. So when I looked at my service performance, I noticed the services like my medical pedicure, the diabetic foot care, or the toenail reconstruction, those were the services where I saw my retention at, where I saw like that was bringing in majority of my revenue. So I was like, why not just drop those services that's not serving me? It's not those, that's not what my ideal client is. So my ideal client is where I want my business to grow in the first place, how I wanted it to be. So at that point, that allowed me to niche all the way down to where I wanted to be. And I now offer the services that serve my community. With that, it brought in more revenue. My monthly income was more consistent. I was able to help people with their foot care, teach them how to, do better with their foot care. So it just kind of changed the trajectory of my business because I wasn't just doing nails, I was creating a brand, something that I wanted to be able to help others change the nail industry, right? Like do things differently. So it's like when you're creating this brand, you can't do everything that everybody else is doing. You have to follow your own way and do the things that serves you. So looking at those numbers, I was really able to niche down and hone on the major skills that I really needed to hone on in.
I don't even know what I want to talk about first because there was so much good stuff in that answer. Just the fact that you touched on, I think, something that a lot of small business owners feel is what's trending? What do I need to add to my business? Like, how do I need to jump on that? But how you were able to kind of separate that out from the noise of what's trending to what is my brand and what do I want to offer? And you said, that's not who I am. So answering that question of who you are and who your ideal client is and focusing in on that and providing more of those services just helped you grow your business overall. I feel like that is such an important piece of information for everyone to hear because it really can feel like when you're on, especially social media or anywhere, like I should be doing this, I should be doing that, but like getting down to the core of your business and helps you make those changes. And I love how you use that data. You started with the data and said, like, what is doing well? And that's where I'm going to focus my energy. So much good. We need to replay that. Can you answer that question again? I'm just kidding. It was really good. Thank you so much, Lanessa. Okay. My next question is for Loretta. How do you decide when it's time to pivot or stay the course based on what the data is showing you?
It's a great question. I think there are a few things that come to mind. I think there's definitely an element of, you know, we should be aware of like what are some of the external factors that might be mixed in into the data, right? So trying to look at separating external factors from true effectiveness of the marketing strategy. We want to know like what are some market disruptions or seasonal changes, like you said. Maybe there's like global events that are impacting the numbers. And I think parsing that out a little bit is super important. I think sometimes you're not quite sure, right? Like, is it time to pivot or stay the course based on the data? I would say test everything. I think in marketing, we want to optimize, continuously learn. Testing is an important part of to make sure that we're validating our assumptions. So if the data is suggesting a problem, I would say run small experiments to test even potential solutions before making major changes. So that's something to consider. And then as a general reminder, I think, and course of action is to continuously monitor like leading indicators, like engagement rates or landing page conversions, click-through rates, like someone said earlier. I think those are really important things to constantly measure rather than relying too heavily on like the lagging indicators like revenue or, like because that's harder to change because those are more like look back metrics versus proactive metrics. And so the leading indicators and looking at that more consistently can allow for more proactive tweaks to strategy and even forecast future outcomes.
Ooh, that is super helpful in looking at the was it leading and lagging indicators? So having a really close eye on your engagement and your reach and those things that you can kind of try different things with very quickly or see if those things are going down versus your revenue and whatnot is super, super helpful. And I think what you mentioned as well is trying to parse out, okay, is this an issue within my business? Is this a seasonal change? Is this a larger global change? And it becomes a lot. It's probably hard to define, but knowing that there are other things that can impact that data can help you try to like parse it out, like you said, and have a clearer view of what it's actually telling you. Um, and then my next question is for Daisha. If a campaign is underperforming, what do you look at first to troubleshoot or fix it?
Well, this is the part where, data meets you getting to be like your own marketing web MD. Because essentially, I think for me, the first thing is looking at the actual data, because then it's like, how do you know that, the nose is running or that the money is not being spent the way that it should? There's some type of data point. So is it that, normally we have a 25% kind of increase month over month with our particular visuals or growth or sales or click-through rate. And then for some reason it's 10%. Now it could be a slow season depending on, what we're doing, but you have to look at the data first in order to get that understanding. There's, somebody in the chat, and I'm going to use them for an example. They have this collision shop. And I love the fact that they also listed out who their customers are, because here's where it gets great. So if they had some type of marketing campaign, the symptoms of an underperforming campaign is, well, for some reason, the audience doesn't understand the content, or the visuals don't align, or the messaging doesn't match what it needs to. Maybe, there's a poor kind of conversion rate because there's something wonky with the website, or, the folks at the auto body shop, maybe, I'm just making this up, right? Maybe they have on goggles when they look at the actual post. So it can't be white letters. It needs to be like yellow font in order for them to see what it is that they're reading. They mention nursing homes, but if they targeted the actual ad to go to hospitals, that's not the same as nursing homes. And so now here it is, you have a misdirected ad, but you have to be able to look at the data points to say, "Ooh, yes, this is where we went wrong," and then be able to, I think, as Loretta mentioned before, then make actionable insights and steps to make that correction once you're able to pinpoint, like, oh, okay, this is where the bleeding is and we need to stop the bleeding. So, those are some of the steps that I take. And I think a lot of times it's going back through, all right, what's our target audience? Where do they live? What do they need? How do they usually engage with our posts? Is it that they're looking at it at a certain time? When are folks buying? Is it a seasonal? Is it a timing thing? I think earlier we mentioned cookies. I thought about the fact that, do you need to tell somebody at 12 o'clock how amazingly awesome your cookies are and that it's a sale? Or do you tell somebody at 6 o'clock and now they're like driving in the car and they're already thinking about dinner? Or is there never a bad time to tell somebody, that they need cookies, whether oatmeal or chocolate? We don't know until we look at the data and then do that A/B testing and then go back and regularly review it. One of the things that, or one of the feedback that I give a lot of business owners, especially as they're evaluating who manages their social media, or, what do they need to do on their team to improve it, is when you all sit down on a monthly basis and go over the report, right? What are we learning? What worked? What didn't work? And how is that translating from your impressions, your click-throughs, and then your sales? Somewhere along the line, you'll be able to see visually. Hopefully, they give you some graphs and charts, because some of us need to learn how we learn, right? Hopefully, you'll see, okay, things are up, or things are medium, or things are, they're kind of falling behind. And for those who are more linear thinkers and they need to see the actual numbers, you can be able to provide them the numbers as well. But they all will be consistent and be able to tell the story of, well, we had this campaign, we used this video, we used this post, it led to this website, this product, this, this page, this sale, this promotion, and you're then able to continue on and be able to use that information to make educated guesses and or smarter insight decisions in order to effectively execute on your strategy and gain a customer for life.
Ah, so many good tips in there. I especially like that you used a question from the chat to kind of share what things you could be looking for. And one of the things you mentioned is, even with the cookie customers, like when are they going to be thinking about this, or what time of day, or where might they find these things? And all of those are super helpful, because I know we've talked about in other webinars how much detail you can get into if you do decide a targeted ad is right for you and your business. The detail that you can get into about your customer is so key. So rather than, spending that money up front, having that insight into your customer and what performs really well, and like doing those steps ahead of time, it automatically makes that a better investment if that's what you decide to do. Or even if you don't, just having that insight makes you create more quality content. And I just really like that, because we want to create something, we want to get our business out there, and not everything is going to hit. But if we're constantly looking at that, like you said, and having those constant check-ins, we can feel like, okay, we know it's going to work. So love that, Daisha. Okay, my next question is actually for all three of you, but Lanessa, I want to start with you. What are your favorite budget-friendly tools for tracking marketing performance, and how can a small business owner build a regular habit around using them?
Oh gosh, I use a lot of them. From free tools like MailChimp for email purposes, your booking app because you can send like text messages and emails through there. But one of my favorite is Metricool. I love this because not only does it gives me the best times to post on social media, but I can actually use a tool and look at my top 5 competitors, see what they're posting, see what post is doing the best, and then go and make something similar to that but better, right? Um, you can also add like your TikTok on there, your Instagram, and it just like analyze all that data for you. So you can even yourself see what you're posting to see how it's doing or if it's even grabbing anyone's attention. So I really do love using it to look at the times that it's best to book versus when it's cold and you shouldn't book and looking at my competitors. So I really do love that tool and it's free. It's a paid version, but the free version work as well.
I love that. I love when a tool has both free so we can test it out, see if we like it, and paid. But what a wealth of information, Lanessa, especially when you're talking about the competitor insight. That is so, so, so helpful. And Rafaela is going to drop that into the chat for everyone. Okay, my next, Daisha, I would love your insight on this. What are your favorite budget-friendly tools for tracking marketing performance? And how can a small business owner build a regular habit around using them?
Ooh, okay. Well, I love, kind of the tried and true Hootsuite. And now, some years ago, they had the free version, and then, it's like, oh, we can do one or two. And then, they must have found some great investors because it's not necessarily always free. But a lot of these platforms, the Hootsuite, the Buffers, the Social Sprouts, they have at least some type of either a free trial or something that they'll let you have for free. And I think it's important too. It's not just tracking. It's not just only tracking the data, but also you're getting into the habit of creating a system for how it is you even go about choose and create your content and schedule, as well as when you're choosing the time to actually analyze and go over the reports. And so I think if you go from, okay, I'm creating my calendar and content somewhat on Canva. I might be using Writer or Dolly in order to make the copy or, another form of visuals. And then you might have like Monday.com that actually checks off who on the team is going to do it at what time. And this is our consistency. And then you circle back to like your Sprout socials or your buffers. And similar to what Lanessa said, like you are looking at, okay, this went out. This is how well it did. But then also, what's the trending topics around that industry? If it's utility, is it like energy this or, hey, we're going to do that. And then that gives you the ability to not only just look at the competition, but can you then create or align your copy with whatever major theme, holiday, or insight that may be of interest? Because again, it's not just this transactional relationship that happens online. You're building trust. If I know that Lanessa loves like chemistry, I'm going to talk about whatever compounds and nails and all the art and did you know, right? And if Loretta is about the numbers, can we make the visuals jump out and the numbers explode if they're not doing what they're supposed to do? Again, it allows for you to be able to see all of that. And I love the fact that these tools kind of range from free all the way to, I think, maybe $100 a month. And as you look at, okay, my revenue is growing, my team is growing, then you can make the decision, my customers are growing, that's very important. Then you can kind of figure out, okay, well, this is how much our budget is. This is the amount of customers. Okay, divide that. Okay, this is our cost. This is what we can stay in. And then you can figure out which tools and team and salary and all that can align within that budget.
Yes, I love how many you shared there and how so many of them, it sounds like, can grow with you and your business from the free version or, those freemium models where they get you with like a couple weeks free and then you love it, so you got to get it. But using those to their full capacity, I think is really key in having that insight. Um, Loretta, same question for you. What are your favorite budget-friendly tools for tracking marketing performance, and how can small business owners build a regular habit around using them?
Sure. I think one of the most important parts is understanding how your website's performing, right? So on top of the Google Analytics that you might have, just seeing like what the traffic and the performance is, tools like Hotjar, which has a free plan, can give you additional insights on what's the user experience like, where are the struggle points, what are they what I call rage clicks, like something that I don't understand is broken or is hard to figure out or navigate, that we want to improve about the website. So it gives you heat maps and session recordings to actually see real users, what they do when they come to the site. So I think that is a really important tool if you're looking to optimize that website experience. And then the other aspect of that is getting people to the website, right? It's a free, always on like lead gen tool, right? So you want to make sure that people are finding it through Google search, in the best way possible. Optimizing your website for search is really important. And Google Search Console is a great way for understanding how your website is performing organically. And I think, some of the regular habits that can be built around this is just to start small, create maybe a reminder for yourself every week that says, I'm going to look at these metrics. And it's a a weekly reminder, or however so often you want to be measuring this, to kind of remind yourself to go in there and look at it. Because I think our days are overwhelming. There's so many things pulling us in different directions. I think just having that just reminder that says, hey, this data is available. Create automate, you can create reports to have it sent to your inbox too. And that's also a great way of just getting notified automatically when at a set cadence that you feel like is appropriate for you.
Yes, I really like that. The idea of just making sure that you've kind of built up those systems to help you remember, whether it's that calendar invite, the weekly email is great because again, I feel like the overarching theme of this webinar is not only that the data is important, but it's only useful if you use it and if you're looking at it. So there's probably so much data that is housed in your business right now. And we heard directly from Lanessa how powerful it can be to use that data to make business changes. So, love the idea of building in the regular strategy. Okay, we are going to go into our last question. And before we do that, I just want to remind everyone that we are going to have a live Q&A. So if there's a question that you have that you'd like to ask our experts, please go ahead and drop that in the chat, and we will try to get to as many of them as possible. Okay. So my final question for everyone, Lanessa, I would love to start with you. What's one small action someone could take this week to improve how they use their marketing data?
Okay, so the first thing I want to say about that is the more you use your data as part of your regular routine, it becomes easier to market with a purpose and you take out the guessing word. So, one of the things that I would say, a small action step that someone could take this week is open up your Instagram, look at your last 5 posts, see which one did well. Once you figure out which one did well, ask yourself why. And then once you figure out that why, you create your next piece of content for the next 5 posts and see if it performs in the same manner because now you have data behind it and you don't have to guess what's trending, what I need to do. You can pull in your ideal clients.
Yes, I love that. I love how specific it was too. Like, open your Instagram, look at those 5 last posts. Like, that is something everyone could do this week. And I love too, Vanessa, how applicable that is to other things. So if you're doing emails, if you're doing other kind of marketing, Vanessa did told us like you got to get in there, look at those last 5, and base your next one off of that. So I think that's so helpful. Daisha, same question for you. What's one small action someone could take this week to improve how they use marketing data?
One small action is write down the questions that you have regarding your dashboard and make an appointment with AOF. So that way, when you get in touch with your advisors, you can be ready with the platform of your choice. Say it's Google, say it's YouTube, and you're like, okay, this is what I understand about my data, and this is what I don't understand. And then you can have a very well done session. That's my advice.
I love it. And yes, we love the plug for the AOF business advising team. They're great. So if you are feeling overwhelmed or hey, I don't know where to start, again, that's that person who's sticking with you in your business to help you grow. And they're going to be walking alongside you and they have so much good industry knowledge. So really love that. And then finally, Loretta, same question for you. One small action someone could take this week to improve how they use their marketing data.
I'd say if you're just getting started, you might be wondering like, is this good? Like, is this showing, like, is this click-through rate good? Like, are the number of site visits, at an optimal level? And it's okay not to know. I think this is where you can start establishing that baseline, right? And then where you are today, looking at what it is today is your benchmark for how you are going to progress from there. And that's, I think, one small thing that you can start doing is just establishing that baseline. That'll be your benchmark for what you want to improve upon. And then you can start looking at KPIs down the line, like, how much more I want to improve this over time. And that comes with a little bit more data that's collected and more insights that you can drive from the data you're collecting.
Yes, absolutely. I love those tips because that takes what is a very broad topic that people will undoubtedly spend months and months tweaking. I mean, your data, your marketing, it's ever evolving. You're always going to be working on it and tweaking it and refining it. But now you've gotten three tips for things you can do this week to make it better. So imagine by next Tuesday, next Wednesday, your data and your marketing is already better because of some of the tips you've implemented today. So thank you everyone so much for answering all of those questions. And it looks like we have a couple of questions in the chat, and we're going to get to that. I do just want to let everyone know again that this webinar is recorded, so it is fully recorded, and there will be an email with the recording and all the relevant links and everything. So if you had any technical issues or didn't get to write anything down, don't worry about it. We will get those to your inbox. Okay, so let's see. The first question is, how do you calculate your customer acquisition cost? So, Loretta, I know you mentioned customer acquisition costs, so I would love to hear your insights on this.
Sure. Basically, it's all of the costs that went into marketing the service or product, all the expenses incurred over a specific period of time, and then divided by the number of new clients that you received or you gained during that specific period of time. So if you were doing this by channel, you could look at, the spend for, say, on if you did some paid search and had Google ads running, you can look at the total ad spend on a particular channel and then how many new clients came in through that channel. And that would be your customer acquisition cost for that specific channel.
Got it. Thank you so much. Okay, this next question is about data, obviously, but finding data specifically. Daisha, I want to kick this to you. So we have a user in the chat, and they are trying to find data in an industry that seems to be underrepresented in general. Like it's not as easy to find information. Do you have any tips or tricks for finding data that's not as easily accessible or what some workarounds might be?
Great question. And as I was looking at the specific question, I was trying to find the specific answer to their question. And so the tips and tricks that I use when it's something that's maybe marginalized or I'm not familiar with the industry at all, you have tried and true Google Scholar. And I know that sounds very, very nerdy, but here's where it gets fun. Google Scholar is kind of this compilation of your books and any insights and studies. Uh, some of them are, kind of behind a paywall, but you'll at least be able to get the high level points of it. So if you want to be able to say, 25% of users wear glasses when it's after 10 p.m. More than likely, there may be a study with that information. And because it's scholarly research is required to be able to answer how did they get to that data point? And then is it within certain cities or with certain genders or with certain ages? So that's one tool that I use. And then your chat GPT, your Google's AI search engine, your, I think it's called Scribe or Cite, one of those, that's another kind of scholarly I ask it, hey, I am looking for, McDonald's products for the last 20 years. Like, what were their best-selling ones? It will give you an answer. Now, AI to me stands for artificial intern. You always want to check the source of their information and see who all can kind of co-sign it, but at least it gives you a start in the right direction. And that's better than being, I don't know anything at all, or the data doesn't exist. And then the third and last thing is depending on the product or industry, there is a organization, an association, a nonprofit that is obsessed. And so because of that, they usually have data, annual reports, and insights.
Love that. Thank you so much, Daisha, for those, because those insights, especially when you're trying to look into an industry where it feels like there isn't a lot of representation or it seems more niche and that data isn't super available. I also don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think having that one-on-one support and brainstorming this with someone like that is what you're using your dedicated time for. So Amber, I went ahead and dropped the coaching link in the chat for you as well, in case you'd like to schedule and talk with someone to like continue to dive a little deeper. Because we can go deep, but data is one of those things where it is just there's always going to be more than you feel like you can consume, especially in an hour. But I really want to thank Lanessa Hubbard of Certified Nails, Loretta Chon from KKR, and Dr. Daisha Elliott from AOF for coming and sharing such insightful and valuable information. We really hope that you, as a business owner, are able to take this and apply it to your business because we know one of the limited resources you have is time. And so we really hope that this was valuable for you today. Don't worry, the recording and all relevant links will be sent directly to you. But again, thank you to our attendees. Thank you to our speakers. And we will see you all in the next one. Thank you, everyone. Bye.